Take a look at this. This is Maryland's electricity prices over the last decade. See that? Pretty flat until 2020. Then things start to shift. But look at what happens after 2020. That spike? That's not normal inflation. That's not your typical utility creep. Something else is going on. And Maryland's not alone. Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Texas, all showing the same pattern. In Georgia, 6 rate hikes since 2023 alone. And get this, according to NRDC, by 2028, the average American household will be paying an extra $70 a year just for the privilege of being connected to the grid. That's before you even flip a switch. So what's driving all this?
Artificial intelligence data centers.
Data centers may be impacting your monthly budget.
Utility bill could go up as much as $70 in the next 3 years because of data centers.
AI has supercharged the demand. Every new model needs more data centers and more power. Today, the US has over 5,300 data centers, nearly double what we had in 2021. And by 2028, they could consume up to 12% of all US electricity. That's like adding 8 New York cities to the grid. So here's the question. If this surge is driven by big tech's AI ambitions, why are we the ones paying for it? Every time you're online, browsing, streaming, storing something in the cloud, or even watching this video right now, there's a data center somewhere processing that request. Think of it as the brain of the internet. But with the explosion of generative AI like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, these data centers have gone from being important to absolutely critical. Every time you type a prompt, it gets fired off to a data center, crunched through a massive AI model, and sent back as text, images, video, or voice. And this isn't happening once or twice. It's happening millions of times a second, all over the world. And that brain, it needs a ridiculous amount of power. Unlike the average data center that runs on CPUs, AI runs on thousands of specialized chips called GPUs. Take NVIDIA's latest model, for example. It crams 72 of NVIDIA's most powerful Blackwell GPUs into a single rack. To give you a sense of scale, one of these racks draws 120 kilowatts of power. That's enough to power 100 American homes. And that's just one rack. A single AI data center can house 1,000 racks, pulling around 100 megawatts. That's basically the demand of a small US city. Okay, these machines are hungry, but here's the real question. Why is your bill going up? Why aren't Google or Microsoft footing the bill? Here's the thing. For 100 years, the American power grid was built on one simple assumption: demand grows slowly. It's spread out, mostly residential, some factories, standard business hours, the rules, the laws, the market structure. They were all written for a world where the biggest customer was a steel mill. But now you have big tech, and they bring a load unlike anything we've ever seen. Take the PJM interconnection. It's the world's largest power market. It covers 13 states, from Illinois to DC. About 65 million Americans live inside its footprint. Every year, PJM holds what's called a capacity auction. It's basically a mechanism to make sure there's enough power for peak times. For decades, it was stable, predictable, but in the 2024 auction, prices skyrocketed, jumping 800 to 1,000% in some zones. That's not just a number. That's a signal that a system built for the last century is cracking under the weight of what are essentially instant cities. And reports show that 63% of that spike came specifically from data center growth. Look at Loudoun County, Virginia, known as the data center capital of the world. Right now, utilities are frantically rebuilding substations, way faster than normal planning would ever allow. The result? PJM runs short on backup capacity, and prices jump due to the cost of what's called emergency readiness. Under current US rules, data centers don't have a special tariff. Even though each facility uses 300 to 500 megawatts, they're billed under rate formulas designed for the factory era. So when capacity runs short, the extra cost gets spread to all customers, including families and small businesses who had nothing to do with this surge in demand. And it doesn't stop there. In the US, transmission fees are often based on your contribution to the peak load. Basically, how much you're using when everyone else is using power. But here's the thing, modern data centers can do something a household can't. They can vanish. In Texas, the system is called 4CP. Here's how it works. Using algorithms, large industrial customers, including data centers, can predict when the peak is coming. When it arrives, they switch to backup batteries or diesel generators for 15 to 20 minutes. Then, they return to drawing from the grid for the remaining 8,700 hours of the year. In PJM, it's called peak load contribution. Same game, same result. On paper, they look like small customers, but the infrastructure still has to be built. So who pays the difference? You do. Because you don't have a megawatt scale battery in your backyard, every dollar they avoid gets shifted onto everyone else. In Pennsylvania, Amazon locked down nearly a gigawatt of power directly from the Susquehanna nuclear plant. They're tapping into a facility that normally feeds cheap, stable power into the grid for millions of people. As a result, that capacity disappeared from the public market. Cheap, reliable power that whole communities depended on was diverted into a private supply for one company. And now that hole in the grid has to be filled by gas plants, which are more expensive and more volatile. This is where virtual power purchase agreements, or VPPAs, come in. Tech companies sign contracts for renewable energy credits from solar and wind farms, sometimes thousands of miles away. It's a financial contract, not a physical power arrangement. In practice, when the sun sets and wind slows, data centers continue running at full capacity. The electricity they consume comes from the local grid, and that power often originates from natural gas plants. The cost of keeping the lights on, firming, balancing, standby generation doesn't get billed to the data center. Again, it gets dumped onto the general ratepayer. These agreements let them look green without paying for the reliability costs they actually cause. There are a lot of loopholes these companies exploit under today's US regulations. But it raises a bigger question. Why do utilities let this happen? Why are they so eager to build expensive infrastructure for them?
If data centers create growth in overall U.S. power demand, that is a very good thing for utility companies across the board.
Most U.S. utilities are regulated monopolies. They don't make their profit by selling electricity. They make it by building infrastructure. The system guarantees them a return, usually around 10% on the assets they build. So the more substations, cables, and plants they build, the more profit they make. Utilities welcome it when data centers come asking for gigawatt-scale projects. It gives them a reason to build billion-dollar infrastructure and pass most of that cost on to the public. And here's the worst part. Most of these deals are wrapped in NDAs. Public documents, redacted. Whole pages blacked out. Transparency is gone. But the bill still shows up in your mailbox. And these companies aren't sitting still. They formed the Data Center Coalition, a lobbying group with Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft. They lobby aggressively to kill bills that would regulate them and fight to preserve rate structures that let them pay less. If this trend holds, experts predict data centers will add $160 billion in costs to the US grid over the next 15 years. If regulations don't change, that burden falls on families and small businesses. So, is there any hope?
Our public health is not for sale! Our public health is not for sale!
Here that we need the most proactive regulation of data centers possible. We do not trust corporate greed.
I don't think Virginia has ever seen any build out like this, ever.
Public pressure is starting to build. Communities across the country are pushing back against new data center projects, not just over land use, but over electricity, water, and long-term costs.
Data centers bring an entirely new risk that threaten the water throughout the state.
And that pressure is beginning to register at the policy level. In November 2024, federal regulators blocked Amazon's nuclear deal. In Texas, new transparency rules kick in for 2025. And recently, the federal government pushed major tech companies to fund their own power generation for AI data centers.
Today we follow through on an announcement I made in my State of the Union address last week as America's largest tech companies officially signed the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. It's a big deal.
On paper, it looks like strong intervention. But put that against the scale of what's coming.
Announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down.
While regulators are arguing about 1 gigawatt, Microsoft and OpenAI are designing Stargate, a 100 billion supercomputer needing 5 gigawatts of power. That's more power than the largest nuclear plant in America. At that scale, public law starts to feel almost irrelevant. This isn't just business anymore, it's an arms race. If the grid won't supply them, they have the capital to build their own nuclear reactors. or invoke national security to bypass regulators entirely.
I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built. So they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll make it possible for them to get that production done very easily at their own plants if they want.
This is a fundamental imbalance. The law was designed to regulate a conventional market, not companies with the scale of nation-states fighting for AI supremacy. The question isn't whether the rules exist, it's whether the current legal framework can withstand that kind of pressure. And when the system finally breaks, the consequences won't be borne by them. They'll be borne by us,